Hello everyone, welcome to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. We are starting, was it 5 or 6 seconds early? I hope you don't mind. That is so good to see so many people already in the chat, and I'm looking forward to doing a Q&A with you today. I hope you are well and healthy no matter where you are, and we are in the middle of our annual show week here in Brisbane. The show week is called the ECA, short for the Royal Exhibition. We just call it the ECA, and so there's an air of festivity in my city, which is good. So maybe we'll bring some of that festivity into our Q&A today. That's what we're doing. In a moment, we're going to get to answering your questions. I can see a really interesting question already has been put in there by a few people. So I'm looking forward to having an opportunity to respond to your questions. Remember, with your questions, if the sooner you get your question in, we answer them in chronological order. Except for if you put a super chat in, we prioritize that question, and all the super chats are very gratefully received, and they all go towards supporting the channel. And as I often say, it's not a cheap thing to run a YouTube channel in the manner that we do. Did you know I sent out a studio update around about just over a week ago, Monday last week, and I had done a sort of looking at how many different video formats I now do here on YouTube, and I counted six different video presentations. So one of them being these live shows that we do every Monday at 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You can make sure that you don't miss a single one of those by subscribing to the channel, hitting the white bell icon, and that way you'll get the email notifications directly from YouTube to let you know that we're going live, just to remind you. And we do sort of Q&A every second week, and then every other week we have an international guest on, a voice expert, and we are graced with the most amazing people who come onto this show, leading experts from across the globe. I am so humbled by the people that take up the invitation and so generously give of their time to teach you and I about their area of expertise. And of course, last week we had who did we last week? It goes by in a blur. I think we had, who did we have last week? Linda. That's terrible. I think, was it Meredith Colby? Or was it? No, it wasn't Kari. Kari was a few weeks back. I'm trying to remember. Oh, we had Jess Baldwin. We had Jess, and she was not forgettable, I can assure you. We had this wonderful discussion about the creative journey, and she shared so vulnerably and so much from the heart about her current creative journey. Can I encourage you, if you missed it, go back and give that a watch. I think you'll walk away feeling really encouraged and inspired, and it certainly won't be forgettable. It's just that I had, perhaps I'm starting to have senior moments. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know. And anywho, so there you go. But look, before we get into the Q&A, incidentally, we're doing Q&A for not only today, but for the next 2 Mondays. And so we've got 3 weeks of Q&A because we do get a bit of a backlog of questions. I do my best to answer a good chunk of them every Q&A live, but anyway, we don't always get, in fact, we never get through them all. I was telling you about video formats. So I've also been experimenting with shorts here on YouTube. And so if you've seen them, let us know in the chat. Let us know if you've been seeing those shorts videos in the YouTube Shorts platform and environment. And I've been putting those into Instagram, and I'm getting all social with it, which is kind of cool. The other thing that we're doing, that I've been doing, I haven't felt busy over the last couple of months, but with the amount of stuff that sort of all happened within the last week, I suddenly realized maybe I have been really busy. I have just released the brand new iteration of 7 Days to a Better Voice. Now, for those of you who may have never heard of 7 Days to a Better Voice before, it is a program, a free program. That's the key takeaway from this. It is a free mini course. Historically, I've had over 15,000, I think it was up to nearly 16,000 people join up to the 7 Days to a Better Voice. 15. It was at least 50. I think it was 15,700 or something. And it was an email-based program, and it was very, very self-led. You got an email every day, and you downloaded some free tracks, and you sort of practiced along. What I have done, and I'm very excited about this, very, very excited to bring this significantly added value to the 7 Days to a Better Voice mini course process, is I've added a whole heap of exclusive videos to it and put it into the same online platform that is hosted by Thinkific, the very same platform that hosts my major, big, full, complete courses at voiceessentials.com.au, and you'll see that come across the screen at the bottom now. I've put this course, this 7 Days to a Better Voice, onto that. If you've never participated before, can I encourage you, sign up. There is a link in the description section of this video that you can sign up to. And so it's directly under in the description section. But even if you have done 7 Days to a Better Voice before, you can only do them once. You can only do the course once. That's how the system works. However, now that I've re-released it, you can do it again. So if you've done it in the past and just via the purely the email-based version, you can now start the 7 Days to a Better Voice program, have full access to exercises, instructional videos, lesson sheets. It is all there for you. Now, here's something else that's sort of happened coincidingly at the same time as releasing that. I have also added not only into 7 Days to a Better Voice, but also into the Singer's Starting Guide and Voice Essentials 1, brand new tracks that are piano-only exercise tracks. So many of you are familiar with my exercise series, the Voice Essentials exercise series 1, 2, and 3. And there's 50 exercises in there, 50 tracks. In fact, did you realize that you can do more than 50 activities with these tracks? But anyway, it's 50 tracks, 50 exercises, and they have been produced in such a way as they've got really groovy, cool, funky backings that you get to practice with. Just makes the practice so much more fun, so much more contemporary, and I love them. But I do understand that for some people, and I did get some feedback occasionally about this, some people, beginner singers particularly, were struggling to really isolate in their ear the audio of the piano guide notes. So what I have done, and we spent the last, I don't know, couple of months doing this, we went through, and for every single track in Voice Essentials 1 that is a melody-based track. So, for example, exercises 12 and 13, which are breath management activities, we did not do this for. But for every single other track, 1, 2, 3, 4, I won't go through them all, we have removed the backing. So that includes the drums, the bass, the guitar. We've removed all of that, and it is now just the piano guide notes. It is my great hope that this really adds significant value for those of you who are going to really benefit from just having that. Now, I don't want you to stay there, as in I would want you to use those as an optional extra, but then that you would then develop on from and be able to put your voice in amongst the full backing, because ultimately, that's what we're doing as singers, right? We need to be able to hold our own vocally within the audio landscape of a full, full musical landscape. So, but I am super excited to bring that to you. There is no added cost. If you already have access to Voice Essentials 1 or the Singer Starting Guide, you will already have access. You will now, as of actually, when did I go live with it? I think on Saturday. You'll have access to those, and you now have access to a couple of them in the 7 Days to a Better Voice program. So can I encourage you, go and check it all out. Give me feedback. Let me know how it is. Is it working for you? Are you enjoying it? Does it add value? I have a sneaking suspicion that it will. One final thing before we get into your questions, and I see them starting to back up. Good old Linda is squirreling away with all, posting all of your questions into our document. I wanted to let you know that I've recently revisited the idea of reaction videos. The vocal coach reaction videos. Oh dear. And I what do I say about this? I continue to be I have continued to have people asking me to do reaction videos. And as many of you know, I have to this point had an ideological issue with doing them. But I never want to be a complete stickler for principle's sake. And you've only got to jump on and do any search for any singing lessons online, and your homepage on YouTube will be inundated with vocal coach react videos. And when they're done well, I can tell you the channels that do them blow up, as in just massive subscriber counts, massive view counts. The wonderful thing about them in one way is they are, dare I say, relatively easy to produce. Now, as I've already told you, I've got 6 video formats that I do here on the channel, including these lives. I do pre-records. They're a lot of work. By the time I script them and shoot them and edit them, they are a lot of work. But the reaction videos, not so much. They're relatively easy to produce, but have a big payoff. And so, can I tell you, I cannot. It would be remiss of me to say that I haven't been tempted, and I think I've shared that with you before. I have been super tempted, and over the weekend, it's been for the last couple of weeks, I have been revisiting this idea because I keep getting asked to do them. Daniel, should you just lay down some of your, hard-nosed principles and do these reaction videos and take the benefits? I can't do it. I can't do it. I tell you where I keep stopping, because I think this is really important. It's important for you in the development of your voice. I tell you why I can't do them. And this is where I keep hitting this hard wall. Tell me in the comments today, tell me if you think I'm just a bit of a academic loony. But let me listen to my reasoning. When we do the review videos, when a channel does the review videos, for the most part, and I am talking generalized here, what the channel is doing is they're pulling up a YouTube clip that they can pull up in their software, and they're playing through it and stopping and starting, and that's what allows the algorithm to not recognize it as copyright infringement. They're stopping and starting, and they're making comment on the video that they're watching. For the most part, not all, but certainly for the videos that go big, the big viral vocal coach reaction videos, they are typically making a comment on videos. I'm just double checking that that's not Linda on my watch. They're typically making a comment on performances that have been highly recorded for TV typically, or for streaming release, and they're highly produced and then released. And for the vast majority of those types of recordings, more often than not, they have been post-produced to the point at which we are no longer hearing the raw original take. So that means they will almost certainly have been heavily tuned. The singer may have even, in fact, gone back into the studio and done, do-overs. There are so many, and I don't have a problem with any of this, but there are so many methods and techniques that go into presenting live recordings as being live, but in fact, the artist may well have then gone on to spend another 3 or 4 weeks in post-production to then present the live recording. Consequently, when someone like myself comes along and does a review video, a reaction video, I'm actually not commenting. I would not be commenting on what is real. So when I hear that wonderful note and I go, in my reaction video, I go, wow, that's amazing. I have no way of being able to absolutely guarantee that the singer in that moment actually hit that note, because that singer may not have hit that note. They certainly wouldn't have hit it in such a way that you and I could do successfully in our own homes, in our own, performances, and sound as wonderful as it does now in the fully produced, doctored, live video that I'm now reviewing for you. And so, in many respects, it just perpetuates, I'm going to stop short of saying inauthenticity, because on one level, I don't actually have a problem with the post-production of these live recordings. I don't. When we are presenting something for public consumption, we want it to sound great. When we go out in public, we dress nicely. We don't go out in our PJs. And so I don't have a problem with post-production. I don't have a problem with auto-tune. But what I do have a problem with is where I then come along and comment on it as if it's real, but in fact it isn't, which then leaves you, and this is the kicker. This is where I can't go there. Certainly as of, the 8th of August, 2022. And look, I'm super keen. If you think you've got something to say, to sort of say, come on, Daniel, you're being a little bit ridiculous, please tell me. I'm fully open to it, because I think I could build a much bigger channel than we have now and build the community. But where I stop is, I do not want to be presenting something that makes you feel inadequate, makes you feel like, why am I even trying? I don't want you to ever feel that your voice is not worthy of being presented and for your story to be heard. And unfortunately, one of And I'm not saying this categorically happens, nor am I saying that this is the intention of those, creators, those video YouTube channels that do this. And some of them do it really tastefully and do a great job. So this is not me criticizing other channels. This is me telling you where I'm at. I just don't ever want to be adding into the smoke and mirrors when you don't know that it's smoke and mirrors. Yeah, that's where the rub is. And I don't yet know how I could ever do a reaction video so that you, as my viewers, as people are part of the community, don't fall for the trap of going, oh, well, that's, listen to XYZ singer sing live, and then me come along and comment on that singing as if it's because it's not real. And so how can I do a reaction video on something that's not real? Let me know. I gave it, I really, over the last couple of weeks, I gave it a really good hard think. I think what triggered me re-looking at it, revisiting it, was I did get called by we're about to have Australian Idol start up again here in Australia. Idol hasn't been produced here in Australia for a number of years, but one of the national TV shows, programs, channels have bought the rights, and they're about to start it up again. And anyway, they called me asking if I had any singers to give them for auditions, to which I politely told them that I probably wasn't the right person to ask. And if you're wondering why, then go and look up TV talent shows on my channel here at Voice Essentials, and I think you'll understand why I was not the right person for Australian Idol to be calling. And I think, anyway, that got me to think about the reaction videos, and I've, anyway. Hope that little sort of, I don't think it was a rant. It was more, I just like to keep you, the community, up to date with where my thinking is at, because we're in this together. And I want you to always understand why I do what I do. And because I don't want anyone to feel like I'm intentionally selling them short by not doing the reaction videos. There is a really considered, thoughtful process that leads me to stop short of doing those. But anyway, there you go. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but there you go. Let me come down here. We've got so many questions too, so we are going to do exactly that after this. Just realised the audio level of that Q&A bumper might be a bit loud. I need to remember to turn that down. Okay, so sorry if I blew your ears out just then. Let's get to some questions. And I saw this one question from RB right way back in the beginning, and I think this is a really interesting question. And so I'm looking forward to having a look at it. Let's go over to this question, and we'll see if we can answer it for RB. So RB's asking, I work with trans voices. A big factor here is vocal weight. My colleagues have described the same voice quality as vocal mass, thin or thick folds, or open quotient. Are these all synonymous? Yes, they are, kind of. So vocal mass does speak to the body or the bulk of the vocal fold, RB. Thin or thick folds is a Joe Estelle, the Estelle method language that when we're talking about, now we're kind of starting to talk about registration with thin and thick folds. And so that's a slightly different to vocal fold mass. However, it's kind of the same thing because vocal mass does change and can alter across registers. And then open quotient, well, in fact, we actually talk about the open and close quotient. And so, for example, in belt voice, we typically have a higher close quotient than open. That is, the vocal folds are coming together and they're closed more than they're open. So the contact is more at a closed point than it is open. And then if we go to a really light voice, then it can reverse. It can go so that you have the vocal folds spend more time open than they do closed. So these are all sitting within the parameters of registration, but also the manner in which the singer is choosing to apply that registration, and the way they're coloring the voice. And so they do speak to the same space. You know, it's funny, I was sharing, you know, I'm often asked about the reaction videos. The other thing I'm often asked about, in fact, I'm not asked about it, I'm always accused of speaking too much, you know, talking about singing too much. And it's interesting because, you know, I just spent a lesson with a student, and we in my lessons, and we've got people in the chat today who can attest to this because they are my private singing students. I'm talking about Linda and Kelly, and I haven't seen I don't know if I've seen my good friend Dom is in Dom's not there, but anyway, we do a lot of singing in my singing lessons. But occasionally I'll have a lesson like I did at 11 a.m. this morning, where the student and I spend a lot of time talking. And today we're talking about in-ear monitoring and levels on stage and those sorts of things. It's so important for us to understand here at Voice Essentials, when you know more, you can sing more. And it's not only in the doing that will make you a better singer. So often it's about in the thinking that will make you a better singer. Of course, you need to then do the singing. Duh. But remember Meredith Colby, only a number of weeks ago, she came on and she was really driving, and she's an expert in this area of brain science. She was really driving at the idea you think before you sing. When you know more, you can sing more. And it's a really important point. And so, you know, talking to this area of understanding these terms R&B is really helpful. And I've got a whole video on voice registrations, which I do reference some of these terms that you're talking about. The video is called Head Voice versus Chest Voice versus Mixed Voice from memory. Have a check of that out, and I think you'll find that really helpful. RB. Evo has just sent us a super chat, which I'm super thankful for. Evo, I'm just in search of where have we got your super chat? Oh, there it is. Evo's just sent in a super chat. Thank you, Evo. Doc, do you assign priorities by percentage of vocal fold understanding and training versus whole body training and breath support? Evo, as you will recall, because we've done private lessons together, I always start. The very first thing we start doing is looking at body awareness, body alignment, and kinesthetic development. Because it's so important that we orientate to the complete whole voice, yeah? If we are laryngeally focused, that is, all of our singing is done here, and this is where we think all of our singing gets done, you are missing the whole picture, the big picture, which is your whole instrument. When your whole instrument is not online, you're getting the vocal folds to do all the work, and they are going to fatigue at a high rate simply because they're having to carry all the load. Bring the whole instrument online, and you will find the whole instrument behaves and performs at such a significantly better rate and outcome. So, I don't see it as a percentage of, you know, vocal fold understanding versus body. It's all. What we do here at Voice Essentials is we zone in our practice, in our exercises, we'll focus in on a breath management activity, or a body alignment activity, or a belt exercise, or twang, or tonal work. And by, you know, picking out one section and focusing on that, we get to really workshop that area of the voice. But we then plug that back into the whole. Yeah? We are the sum total of our parts, and our voice and vocal development is no different. So there is great advantage to focusing on specific points. In Voice Essentials, we start in Voice Essentials 1, and Voice Essentials 1 is quite a broad kind of development of the 8 pillars of vocal development. And then as we get further into Voice Essentials 2 and Voice Essentials 3, it gets more and more focused, more and more specific. And that's good learning. That's how it should be. We drill down, and the more we drill down, the more focused it becomes. So, Evo, I hope that that helps. But broadly speaking, we're working with the whole voice. Let's come back to, I've got a question here from Jemima. I think this is it. Jemima, you've asked, so I'm currently learning singing through your YouTube videos. I hope you're enjoying them, Jemima. But I am facing a problem. I'm not able to judge myself if I'm doing exercises and everything correctly or not. Yeah, it is one of the challenges of coming to the learning process by yourself. When you are a self-directed learner, and I understand, and you've added a small comment there around about, you know, in reference to your income that doesn't permit you to do, you know, individual lessons, etc. This is why I do the YouTube channel, is to provide people who don't have access for a whole range of reasons. Money is not the only reason why people can't do private tuition, but it's certainly one of the big ones. But I would, you know, this is why I do the channel, and why I think you will find that the 7 Days to a Better Voice program will be really, really helpful to you. It's free. It's completely free. And so I want to encourage you to sign up to that if you haven't already in the last few days, because it's only gone live in the last few days. Sign up to it and get into it. Now, that process still can't give you direct feedback. You know, a YouTube video, me, even when I'm on the other side of this instructional screen, I can't give you direct feedback. I can only give you instruction. You can try recording yourself into a smartphone just to give you some sense of what you're doing. But beyond that, you know, you could try singing it for a friend, a trusted friend, and gaining some feedback that way. But there will be by not being able to have lessons with a private teacher, it will sort of, you know, bring you up. Yeah, ideally that's what we'd want you to do. But start with the 7 Days to a Better Voice program. And see if you can work from there. I do give really detailed instructions, so hopefully some of that detailed instruction will point you in the right direction. Okay, Cassius. I think this is it. Cassius is saying, hi, Dr. Dan, I struggle staying in key unless I really belt it out. What could I be doing wrong with my voice when singing softly? Well, in a funny kind of way, one of the things that might be going wrong, Cassius, is the fact that your voice has learnt to only activate and adduct when you are really placing it under significant load. And that is an imbalance in the musculature and the vocal fold response. And so one thing that you would need to do is go through a process of rebalancing the musculature. And that's going to come from one thing that I would venture to do with a student who may present like that would be to do some vocal. Well, actually, the first place that you might want to start is SOVTs, semi-occluded vocal tract activities. And so you could start with lip bubbles, tongue trills, hums, NGs, some straw phonation would be good to do, and go looking to reassert some muscular balance. Cassius, this is not going to happen quickly. There is a period of time to be worked through. And I would be encouraging you to start that journey as soon as you can, because if left unattended, in so much as if you keep taking the voice down a road of it only maintaining, in this case, correct pitch while it's under load, it is only going to require more and more and more load, and that the end of that road is not pretty. So it's important to have you turn around as soon as you can and start going the other direction and rebalance so that you can adduct the vocal folds and maintain pitch when you are singing softly. I'm by no means suggesting that's going to be easy, but it is what I'd be encouraging you to do quite strongly. Amoro, let me see if I can find your question. Amaro, is that how we say your name, Amaro? Hi, Dr. Dan. I can't even sing for more than 10 minutes without your voice choking, which is not on that. Where's the rest of... Oh, here we go. Here's the rest of the question. I can't even sing for more than 10 minutes without my voice choking, so please tell me what to do. Amaro, what you need to do is, not dissimilar to what we just spoke with our previous question with Cassius, what we need to do is have you back off the pressure. We typically will find ourselves choking when we sing, when the voice is under too much load, when there's too much subglottal pressure, the larynx has to brace against that and hold all that pressure back. But that's going to cause a squeeze at the level of the vocal folds and above it at the supraglottic, supra being above. And so we might often get a false fold bearing down to support the true folds. And sometimes we'll even get the epiglottis will brace down as well. All of this leads to constriction. And it's often constriction that's going to lead to the voice locking up. So my advice to you is actually to start doing some breath management work so that you can learn to reduce your breath pressure. It's all about reducing what we refer to as PTP, phonatory threshold pressure, while we maintain a consistent PTF, phonatory threshold flow. And so we're looking to constantly manage those two worlds. It's a bit like I'm teaching my son to drive a manual car at the moment. He's getting better. He'll get it. But part of learning to drive a manual car, for those of you who have never had the joy, it's learning to manage the clutch and the accelerator. If you if you have too much accelerator as you let the clutch out too quickly, you'll lurch and you'll lock up. If you have not enough accelerator and you let the clutch out, what can happen? The engine can conk out. So you've got to get the play. You've got to get that clutch point, that management between the two going well. If you think about your vocal folds as being the clutch and your air pressure, your air being the accelerator, it's a matter of learning to manage those two, keeping them in harmonious balance. Yes, when you want more volume, say in the case of a car, if you want to go faster, quicker, you are going to need more fuel, but the engine is going to manage this for you. It's going to be able to flow that fuel, and you're going to be able to manage your way through the gears so that the revs of that engine are maintained. You're not revving the engine out, yeah? But when we're learning to do those two things, the first thing you need to do is look at your breath management. That is the first thing that I'd encourage you to have a look at. I've got plenty of videos on that here on the channel, and you can check that out in 7 Days to a Better Voice, and we go into it in that as well. John Jewel, where am I? I'm looking for your question here, John. With CD players being out of date, I'm laughing because one of my good students last week, he bought in a new amp that he's got, and he wanted to show me it's got a mic in and a guitar in, and it's a Boss amp, and it's got some really cool little effects in it, a harmonizer and a looper, and anyway, it's bringing me in to sort of show it off. So we're having a look at it, and I said, oh yeah, it's got an aux in as well, and he says, oh, for your Discman. We both had a good chuckle because Discmans have not been a thing, even though I still own one. I actually still own one from when I was gigging back in the 2000s, but Discmans have not been a thing for a long time, so we both had a good chuckle. John is asking, with CD players being out of date, what format should artists think about releasing their material? Should they go vinyl or not? Actually, I've got a different student again at the moment, and he's a gentleman in his 60s. Actually, I hope I haven't sold him incorrectly there. I'm fairly sure he's either late 50s or he holds his age pretty well, early 60s. Anyway, the point being, he is doing an album. He's doing a wonderful job. I'm really loving the material he's writing. It's a self-produced, independent album, and he's going to do a very cool thing, and he's going to release it on to CD, and which I'm kind of excited by because he's going to send me a copy, and I'm going to put it up on my shelf. Back in the day, students, when they were producing their CDs, they would give me a copy so I could sit it in my studio and show other students, you know, the sort of projects that my students are in. But with the advent of streaming, students no longer cut CDs. They just release on through CD Baby onto, you know, Spotify, etc. So yeah, so anyway, he's pressing a CD, and because he wants to give it as a gift to people. There is no right or wrong way, John, whether you should or you shouldn't. It really comes down to what is the purpose. And I think perhaps, John, for yours and my age and older, there is a certain romance around releasing a CD, dare I say, an LP. I haven't recently heard of anyone releasing it as tape, like a cassette tape, nor as a, you know, what were they back, way back? Let me know in the chat section if you can remember 8 tracks before cassettes. I think maybe cassettes have gone the way of the dodo, but I think people are still releasing CDs and LPs. Certainly LPs the very retro cool thing to do. And perhaps CD, maybe even maybe cassettes will come back because it will be sort of that retro cool thing, marketing thing to do. The only problem will be, of course, no one has cassette players anymore. I can show you. Let me show you here. I actually do have, where if I can show you, I've got, can you see, I've got this cassette just there. So that's actually a cassette player, but here's a little secret. It no longer works. It gets turned on every day so that the pretty LED lights come on, but that's about the size of it. So I don't think people have CD have cassettes anymore, and that's possibly another consideration. I don't think many people have CD players anymore. We've become so stream / digital / Spotify focused in the world that very few people have Discmans anymore. How are we going for time? Oh, wowzers. Look at the time. We've got time for one more question. Let me see if I can. Oh, here we go. We'll finish on this one question. Let's see if I can bring this up. So Amando is asking, how did Dr. Dan become a voice specialist? Can you ask him about his journey? You're watching from Mauritius. Now, am I right in thinking that Mauritius Island is a part of the Commonwealth? Amando, let us know, because I've been watching the Commonwealth Games the last week, and I for some reason I seem to think of that Mauritius perhaps is a part of the Commonwealth, but let me know. Anyway, that's by the by. How did I become a voice specialist? Well, through a very long, convoluted journey, it would have to be said. My first year out of high school was touring with a band, living out of a suitcase for 10 months. We toured right up and down the eastern seaboard of Australia. We did nearly 400 shows in the space of 10 months. It was a pretty significant learning curve, it has to be said. But it was a learning curve of not really knowing what I was doing. That was with a youth band that worked in team with chaplains. And so out of that, I actually went on to do 2 years of Bible college, seminary. And I thought I was going to come out the other end of that as a youth pastor, to be honest with you. Things didn't really go in that direction, and I didn't really warm to the idea of doing youth ministry. And so I ended up getting into the Queensland Conservatorium of Music in a classical voice degree. I won't go into the really unusual way that I got into that degree, but it was not via the front door, let's say it that way. There was nothing untowards, but I got in through a really unusual set of events. Did a couple of years of classical voice. Again, that wasn't really my bag. Wanted to get over to contemporary. Long story short, did an undergrad of jazz vocal at the Queensland Conservatorium. At the same time, I was a worship pastor and was starting to be really interested in voice and my own performance, but also the voice health of my singers in my worship team, which led me to do a master's in looking at the vocal health of worship leaders. And all alongside this, I was very heavily involved in the Teachers Association here in Australia, ANATS, became vice president of that, and in doing so, was really just heavily invested in the research of voice. Went on to do my doctorate in looking at contemporary worship singers and their voices. Doctorates are very specific. You know, you don't just do a doctorate in voice specialty. You focus with a doctorate. The higher level of your education, the more focused you become. But in that whole process, I started really doing a lot of work with ear, nose, and throat doctors, speech pathologists, and have worked in team with a couple for quite some years. I am what is referred to as, and these days, so when I started to use the term singing voice specialist, I started using that term like 15 years ago, before it was a thing. In the US, recently, it's become problematic, that term. I disagree with the reasons it's become problematic, but nonetheless, that's what's happened. So I always try to really qualify now that I am a non-clinical singing voice specialist, and that's because in the last 10 years, what has started to happen is a singing voice specialist, a clinical singing voice specialist, is now someone who is recognized as not only having a singing degree, but also a speech pathology degree. So you would have typically at least someone with two bachelors, really, in one sense. I don't have the speech pathology degree, but I do have a lot of worked experience and a very high level academic degree in the area of voice for singing. So someone, I think it was Leda Scarce, recently suggested the use for ones like myself, just nominating that that I'm a non-clinical, that is non-speech pathologist, singing voice specialist. So I hope that helps. The funny thing about becoming a singing teacher of any level of experience, it's a little convoluted. Still in Australia, to my knowledge, the only place that you can do a singing teaching degree, like a vocal pedagogy degree, is here in Brisbane, Australia. And that is kind of mirrored across the world. There are very, very, very few places where you can actually gain a degree in vocal pedagogy. And so many singing teachers still have come up through the apprentice model. But even those singing teachers who have developed into the profession of singing teaching via that pathway, it still behoves them, as it continues to be my responsibility, to continue to learn by reading and experiencing and developing my understanding around voice. I can tell you that in the last 20 years, I've been teaching for 27 years this year. Not as long as some, but certainly longer than others. Particularly in the last, since the turn of the century, the amount of research that has gone into voice, and thus the amount of understanding that has come into the profession around how voice works, how acoustics work, how the anatomy works. Wow, there is so much to it. This profession of singing teaching is not simply a matter of, I'm a pretty good singer, so I think I'll hang a shingle and call myself a singing teacher. If that is all a person does, there may be some troubled waters ahead, not only for themselves, but for their so-called students. And so, because there is so many things that can go wrong if at the hands of an ignorant singing teacher. So make sure when you're looking for a singing teacher, look for someone who is educated, either informally or formally, continues to develop. You can really see that they're passionate about their practice of teaching, and that they're really informed, that they're really and you'll pick it up. You'll know, and you'll know from when you ask questions. When you bring your question to the teacher, how much you get back will tell you how much they understand. Remember, you only get one voice. Please be careful with it. Yeah, please look after your voice. Put it in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing. That's not to say that your singing teacher needs to know everything. I certainly don't. You can't. You can't know everything. But you want your teacher to have a level of understanding that you can be really assured by. Well, there you go. That was an interesting way to finish today. Look, I hope you've enjoyed today's live hangout and the Q&A, and I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. And we're going to do this all again next week. So I hope you'll subscribe, hit the white bell icon, and before you leave, give today's video a thumbs up. Let me know that you've enjoyed today's hangout, and I hope you have a great week. As I said, we've got show week here. So do you know what? That means we've got a public holiday on Wednesday. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to do my lawns. That's what I'll be doing this week. But regardless, I hope you have a great week, and we'll all catch up again next week. I'll see you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.